In this lesson, we'll learn about the traditional methods of coloring objects in Illustrator using a combination of panels and tools. I've got the document open here, and it comes with a series of default colors available for us to use in the artwork. I'm going to choose the Artboard 1 art sign in the artboard. And with the selection tool, I'll click to select the large red shape in the background. And now I'll click the fill box in the Properties panel. I'll open up the Properties panel. So I'll click the fill box, and that shows the default saved swatches. And I'll position the pointer over a swatch to reveal the tooltip that says Sign BG to change the color of the fill for the selected artwork. It's kind of a blue color. So I'll click that and it changes the background color, and I can just press Escape to hide that swatches panel. Now we can also create a custom color, and there are many ways to do that. So the first way I'll do that is with my selection tool. I'll click to select the gray ellipse below the word art. And then I'll click the fill box in the Properties panel. And then I'll select the color mixer option in the panel, that icon that looks like a palette. And then I'm just going to click in the light green part of the color spectrum to sample a light green color to apply it to the fill. And there it applied the color that I chose from the spectrum. Now in the color mixer panel, I'm going to specify percentages for the CMYK value. So I'll choose a C value of 52, an M value of 0, a Y value of 100, and a K value of 0. So that creates a specific color. Now we need to save that color as a swatch. So what I'll do is click the fill box in the Properties panel. Or I'll just go back to the swatches panel there and click the new swatch icon at the bottom of the panel. And a dialog box opens up. I'll move it over here. I'll change the swatch name to light green. And I want to make sure that Add to My Library option is deselected. And also notice that global swatch option there is selected. That's a very important option to select. It makes changing colors much easier. So I'll just click OK to save the swatch. And after I click OK, you can see that it adds it to the swatches panel, and it's highlighted because that object is selected. And notice the little white triangle in the lower right corner of the swatch, which indicates it's a global swatch. So with this shape still selected, I'm going to click the fill box in the Properties panel. And then from the panel menu, I'm going to choose Duplicate Swatch. And this will just create a new swatch from the fill color of the selected artwork. Now I want to click to apply the original light green swatch to the selected color. And then with the selection tool, I'll click the gray ellipse below the word fine to select it. And I'll double-click the green swatch copy to apply it to the selected artwork and to edit the color settings. So I selected the ellipse. I'll open my swatches panel and double-click that green copy, which applies it and then brings up the color dialog box. I'll change the name to orange, and then I'll change the CMYK values to a C of 60, an M to 51, the Y value to 89, and the K value to 0. And I'll click preview and we can see how that changes the color as I change the values of the various color properties. And when I'm done, I'll just click OK, and that will apply that color to the ellipse. Now I'll select the gray ellipse below the orange ellipse, and then I'll click the fill box in the properties panel, and I'll choose the new swatch button at the bottom of the panel. And in the dialog box that opens up, I'll name the swatch pink. And again, the global option is selected by default. And I'll change the CMYK values to a C of 5, an M of 100, a Y of 60, and a K of 0. And I'll make sure that Add to My Library is deselected. And once I click OK, you'll see that the new swatch is in the same row as the gray color swatches, because that's what it was before we started. I can just click, hold, and drag the new swatch up to the row of colors that I've been creating. Now, with the selection tool, I'll click the ruler shape at the bottom of the artboard, and I'll click the fill box in the properties panel, and then select the new swatch that I named pink. So that fills it with that swatch. I want to change that a little bit, so I'll just double click that swatch, and I'll change the Y value to 30%, and I'll click OK. And when I do that, notice how it changed both the color of the ruler and the color in the palette that was also pink, because those are both global swatches, which is the nice thing about using global colors. However, the default colors that come with Illustrator are not saved as global swatches, so that when we edit those colors, they're not going to update the color like it does with global swatches. So with the selection tool, I'm going to click to select the large blue shape in the background, and I'll click the fill box in the properties panel, and then I'll click the green color swatch with the tooltip that shows a C of 75, M of 0, Y of 75, and K of 0. So I'm just hovering my cursor over there to find the right green. And we can tell that this is not a global swatch because it doesn't have that little white triangle in the lower right corner of the swatch. So I've applied the green to that. Now I'll go up to Window. I'll deselect that and close that Swatches panel. We can open up the Swatches panel through the Properties panel or by going up to Window and down to Swatches. And now I'm going to double-click the swatch that I just applied to the background to edit it. And in the Swatches Options dialog box, I'll change the name to Background and change the C value to 80, the M value to 10, the Y value to 45, and the K value to 2. And when I click the preview box, notice that the color of the background shape doesn't change because it's not a global swatch. So I'll just click OK and close the Swatches panel. And then I'll click the green background swatch I just edited to apply it again. Now we'll use the color picker to create some color. And the color picker lets us select a color in a color field and in a spectrum, either by defining colors numerically or just by clicking a swatch. I'll click to select the gray ellipse to the right of the brown end of the paintbrush. And then I'll double-click the gray fill box at the bottom of the Tools panel. And this brings up the Color Picker dialog box. And in the Color Picker box, I'm going to drag up and down the color spectrum bar. That's a kind of rainbow bar, kind of in the middle of the dialog box. So I'll just click on those adjustment handles to the left and right of the color bar, and I'll drag them up and down, and you can see how the color changes. And I want to end up with the triangles in a blue color range. So there I am. And now I'll click, hold, and drag that little circle in the large color box to the left there. And you can see as I move it horizontally, it shows the saturation of the color. So moving that little circle horizontally determines the saturation, and then when I move it up and down, it changes the brightness of the color. So that's another way to pick some colors. Just move that color box around by adjusting the brightness and saturation. However, I do want to pick a specific color, so in the CMYK values, I'll change the C value to 90, the M value to 15, the Y value to 0, and K to 0. And then I'll click OK, and the blue color is applied to the fill of that shape. Now I'll click the fill box in the Properties panel to show the swatches. I'll click the New Swatch button at the bottom of the panel. And in the dialog box, I'll change the swatch name to blue. And again, make sure that Global is selected and that Add to My Library is deselected. And then I'll click OK, and we can see that the color appears in the swatches panel. So there are some various ways to color artwork. Got lots of options for painting our artwork in Illustrator.